Play the most brutal shooter of the year. Warhammer 40k Darktide is the much-anticipated co-op action shooter from an award-winning team of developers. Pre-order and play now. Welcome to MojoPlays. Today, we're looking at things you need to know before playing the Callisto Protocol. Will this be the scariest game on next gen? Before we begin, we publish new content all week long, so be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. Setting. As the name would suggest, the Callisto Protocol is going to be set on Callisto, which is the smallest of Jupiter's 4 Galilean moons, in the 24th century. Callisto is still the size of a planet in its own right, and it's the location of a ruthless prison in the game called Black Iron. All we know about the story is that the main character is called Jacob Lee, who's played by Josh Duhamel. Gamers will recognize him as Pearson from the campaign of Call of Duty World War II in 2017. An outbreak of some kind of alien contagion will threaten the prisoners, and players will be left in a hostile colony on a deadly world where escape seems almost impossible.
Because your new life is entirely in my hands.
PUBG spin-off. Yes, the Callisto Protocol began its life as a spin-off for PUBG, bizarrely. Krafton, PUBG's publisher, put together a new studio, Striking Distance, to work on expanding the lore and world of PUBG to keep it relevant in the Battle Royale space. But they decided to put seasoned game developer Geln Schofield at the helm, and as such, the game quickly took on a life of its own. It's now its own thing and isn't connected to the world of PUBG at all. However, it's also been said by developers that the game has a 4-year support plan, which could mean anything from DLC content to multiplayer and perhaps even PUBG tie-ins. Only time will tell. Geln Schofield.
Attention. All personnel report to the main scene.
Sticking with development, fans of Dead Space will remember Geln Schofield as one of the core creators of that legendary horror series. In every way, the Callisto Protocol is a spiritual successor to Dead Space, already in development when EA decided to announce it was doing a remake of the first Dead Space game. Now, Callisto Protocol will be competing directly with its predecessor, slated for release in January 2023. But with nearly an entire decade since the last Dead Space game, we're sure gamers will be more than happy to check out both, especially if they're each as scary as promised. Diegetic HUD. One major element players absolutely love about the Dead Space games is their heads-up display, and you'll be pleased to see that the Diegetic HUD will be returning in Callisto Protocol. This means that the HUD exists in the world of the game through a health bar projected onto Jacob Lee's neck, always visible to the player in third-person combat. Weapon ammo will also be a hologram visible on the weapon itself, just like in Dead Space. We're not sure how EA feels about this, but it's always great to see heads-up displays implemented creatively, and it only adds to the immersion, extremely important in a horror game. Shoot the limbs. Another core mechanic in Dead Space's gameplay is that you have to shoot the limbs off the enemies. When the first game released, it was really just another spin on zombies, but it subverted traditional zombie gameplay by having you shoot off limbs instead of aiming for the head. Necromorphs can still attack you without their heads, so you want to break them apart, including by stomping them after they've been downed to stop them coming back. This looks like it's been carried over exactly into Callisto Protocol, and it's nice to see, because it makes combat encounters much more creative than if you're simply just trying to get headshots. Action sequences. We've seen some spectacular action sequences in the gameplay released so far, including one where Jacob is in a tunnel which quickly fills with water and carries him away. An ambitious set piece, it definitely reminds us of some of the huge action sequences in Dead Space, like that train sequence in Dead Space 2 that ends with Isaac hanging upside down. We've actually seen Jacob in what looks like a very similar upside down encounter briefly in one of the trailers, and we hope it's just as fun and frightening this time around. However, as we're on a moon now, we're not sure Dead Space's famous zero-gravity sequences will reappear. Kinesis. as well as giving you an array of very unique weapons to use, like the Javelin Gun and Isaac's iconic Plasma Cutter. Dead Space also gave you some unique abilities in the form of telekinesis and stasis. Stasis we haven't seen in the Callisto Protocol yet, but we have seen a push and pull ability that will likely work much the same way as Kinesis. In the trailers, we've seen some large fans and meat grinder-esque pieces of industrial equipment, all of which have been shown to shred enemies if you can throw them in. They will, however, also kill Jacob if he gets too close, which leads us into our next point. Death animations. If there's one thing Dead Space has always been known for, it's for its outlandish and gruesome death animations. Nearly everything can kill Isaac, often in a gratuitous and interesting way. We all remember the eye syringe from the end of Dead Space 2, one of the most enduring death scenes in any video game ever. Luckily, violent animations will be returning in the Callisto Protocol, with many of the gameplay demos so far ending with Jacob dying in a horrific way, like by getting pulled into those meat grinders that we mentioned. We can't wait to see all of the ways Jacob will be able to die. Biophages.
They didn't have a clue what was going on. Things are changing.
They're not necromorphs anymore. In Callisto Protocol, the enemies are called biophages, though they seem to operate in much the same way. In the trailers, the voiceover that can be heard is the prison warden, who's promising immortality, which presumably means you can live forever by having your body taken over by this alien plague. But one crucial difference between Callisto Protocol and Dead Space is the mutation mechanic, where biophages will mutate during combat encounters, becoming stronger and stronger. You have to kill them quickly and efficiently so that you don't get overwhelmed in what's going to be a very organic way to make encounters unique. Release date. So, when can you get your hands on the Callisto Protocol? The release date is currently December 2nd, 2022, and despite a brief scare with the Epic Games Store apparently changing the release date, it's been confirmed that this is still the release date. The Epic Games incident was just a typo, according to Striking Distance and Crafton. It's also going to have a 60 FPS performance mode on consoles, setting it apart from some other hotly anticipated releases that ran at a locked 30 FPS. It's releasing across generations too, on PS5, PS4, PC, Xbox One, and Xbox Series consoles, so pretty much everyone will be able to check it out and give it a fair shake at launch. Play the most brutal shooter of the year. Warhammer 40k Darktide is the much-anticipated co-op action shooter from an award-winning team of developers. Pre-order and play now.